This is about the recent comments made by former Norwegian peace envoy to Sri Lanka, Mr. Erik Solheim, in a Twitter interview to dailymirror.lk. He says that the Sri Lankan issues must be solved by the Sri Lankan people, Sinhalese Muslims and the Sri Lankan Muslims and the Sri Lankan Tamils, rather than, for coming after Indians or Americans and Europeans for help. This is a controversial statement after a lapse of a long time by Erik Solheim, because we have to look into these matters very seriously, because in the present context, when China supported Sri Lanka to develop its infrastructure after the war ended to come into today's level of with a lot of development of infrastructure in the country and bringing back the Rajapaksa brothers to lead the country forward, the Erik Solheim's comments are totally rejected, because the timing of the comments at a time when Sri Lanka is working with China to develop the country, and also the practical side of India for the last 30 years, more than 30 years during the war, destabilizing the country when Sri Lanka started to develop its economy beyond the Indian economy in 1978 with so much economic growth. And also, at that time, India's Prime Minister created LTT to destabilize Sri Lanka, purely because Sri Lanka was emerging as, similar to an ASEAN country in 1978. And Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's operation succeeded, but once again, when we can see the Sri Lankan economy started thriving under soon after the President Mahinda Rajapaksa ended the war. Once again, we can see the defection of the then commander of the Sri Lanka army, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, to American side, and then try to create an issue. But that failed, and as long as Rajapaksa family leads our country, our national security is safe. And that is why when President Rajapaksa's downfall was brought about in 2015, subsequently the economy picked up under Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe due to his alliances with the US, which is responsible for creating the Sarath Fonseca mess in the Sri Lankan politics. And that resulted in India once again activating itself and attacking the Sri Lankan economy at a time when Sri Lanka's economy was thriving in 2018 during with the Easter carnage, because India gave a prior warning before the Easter carnage. It did not come into the Sri Lankan military well, because Sri Lankan military was destabilized with so many arrest and jailing of the Sri Lanka military personnel. The India once again proved itself with the 2018 Easter carnage, and now we can see the all Europeans, the Americans, and the Indians' involvement here, with the Norwegians of European Norwegians, Sri Lanka monitoring mission, rather than supporting a truthful, genuine peace process, the Sri Lanka monitoring mission of the Norwegians rather did not commit themselves. As the Erik Solheim's interview appearing today on dailymirror.lk shows, they never committed to solve this problem, but rather they played a very distant hand rule. So that was the reason for collapse of the peace process. And not only that, the European nations announced the American involvement here later with the Sarath Fonseca taking on America, and the transnational government of Tamil Nadu in America. And not only that, the United Kingdom's Anglican Christian Church, having its South Indian dioceses, is having the jurisdiction over Anglican Christianity in Jaffna. This results in Jaffna citizens who are Anglicans, Sri Lankan Anglican Christianity members, being have to follow the South Indian Diocese of the Indian Anglican Christian Church. So this is a major issue where the UK, through the Anglican Christian Church in Tamil Nadu, and also the Europeans through the Norwegians and the Americans, while Indians directly involved, tried to destabilize. It all failed because of the Rajapaksa family once again coming into political leadership in 2019. If not for them, Sri Lanka would have been in ruin once again. So we can see the statement made by Erik Solheim that Sri Lanka must solve its problems, among through discussion with the Sinhalese, Sri Lankan Muslims, and Sri Lankan Tamils. Is something points towards destabilization of Sri Lanka now through Sri Lankan Muslims who have Indian origins, because Sri Lankan Muslims have come from Arab nations historically, and also prominently from India. The Moors are mostly Indian Sri Lankan Muslims, and also from Malaysia, the Malays. Here now, since the LTT is completely destroyed, the India's involvement for the next few years would be through the Sri Lankan Muslims, who they try to control here for like random attacks, as the LTT did earlier during the early period of 1980s, at the time of beginning of the war. They were never a conventional territorial force, but they carried out random attacks. So this similar situation we can see once again India trying to create using the Indian origin Sri Lankan Muslims. Especially this has to be investigated by the Sri Lanka Armed Forces Intelligence. Especially the Indian origin Sri Lankan Muslims can be moved against the Sri Lanka, as happened during the Easter Carnage, since LTT had completely been destroyed from Sri Lanka. Because once you look at Erik Solheim's statement on Twitter interview appearing on dailymirror.il, he says Sri Lankans would not prefer a war, but they are tired of a war. Well, we are not tired of a war. As long as anyone trying to interfere in our country, we would protect our country. And he mentions that the Sri Lankan Sinhalese first, then the Sri Lankan Muslims, then the last and the least Sri Lankan Tamils. So this obviously points towards the Sri Lankan Muslims with Indian origins being the replacement substitute for Sri Lankan Tamils now, in order to carry out India's agenda to destabilize Sri Lanka. I think on the other hand, Sri Lankan Tamils are now moving to Tamil Nadu to create their own country there, the free, independent, sovereign Tamil Nadu, because the downfall of Jayalalitha and also the popular leader in South India state of Tamil Nadu, and also the other events that we have seen subsequently, like the China's involvements in Sri Lanka, and but what we have seen that despite when the China's involvement, India may have misunderstood as to create an independent free state in Tamil Nadu, but Sri Lanka is a non-aligned country, and Sri Lanka will not allow our country to be used to destabilize India, because China's presence is only for infrastructure and investment purposes, but India's investments in the drones and other aircrafts and creating like armed manufacturing industry that all, I think, because India may think that China may create a separate free sovereign Tamil Nadu in South India in order to safeguard Sri Lanka's interest, because according to the Jain Commission report also about Rajiv Gandhi murder, it clearly the Supreme Court of India has mentioned that the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi had been done as a personal revenge of Prabhakaran, for the atrocities of Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka's conflict. Well, it cannot be, because Indian Tamils and Sri Lankan Tamils are like a one nation, and this particular death of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was carried out by Thenmosi Rajaratnam or Kalwani Rajaratnam, or known as Danu, when she was 17 years old, schoolgirl, because and she had come from a family, committed to this type of act of revenge. So now the thing is, this incident clearly proves in the medium to long term, uh, like according to the like the law of nature, the karma, the Indian Tamils and Sri Lankan Tamils getting united and under one voice in order to create their independent free state in Tamil Nadu. That is the reality here. I think because those situations, what India did for Sri Lanka would come and once again result in the downfall of Indian Republic, because Indian Republic is is not a very stable republic, because we know that the Tamil community, whether it's Sri Lankan Tamils or Singapore Tamils or Mauritius Tamils or Canadian Tamils, they are like a one big nation and their fatherland is India. And I think the whole events of Rajiv Gandhi assassination, also in Sri Perubudur, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, on 21st May 1991, points towards the division of Tamil Nadu from India. Because if that is the thing, and if Tamil Nadu becomes a free independent nation, of course Sri Lanka could, all Sinhalese, Sri Lankan Tamils and Sri Lankan Muslims can live peacefully, because otherwise this problem would go on for another thousands of years to the future. I think this situation can only be fairly just in a justice way, could be resolved only by making the free independent Tamil Nadu country as a new nation. Because of the so many atrocities done in Sri Lanka, and so much destructions done here, and the continuous involvements as indicated by the attacks on the Roman Catholic Church, Chinese-owned Shangri-La, inside which the Americans and British and Saudi Arabian and the European and so many foreign nationals died, and the Nigambo church attacks and the Batiklo church attacks, because we know that in Batiklo is the hometown of the girl, the 17-year-old Thenmosi Rajaratnam, or known as Kalaivani Rajaratnam or Danu. Her hometown is Batiklo, right? And she lives with her father. Her parents are very close by to the location of the church, which was attacked by the Indian origin Sri Lankan Muslims, at that time. So this incident clearly proves the India's involvement, since we know the Kingsbury Hotel had been majorly like a stakeholder is Mr. Basil Rajapaksa, that was under attack, and the China's Shangri-La had been attacked, inside which the Americans and British and Saudi Arabian and so many Europeans died, and also this particular church in Batiklo, where the teenage girl who carried out the Rajiv Gandhi attack, her family lives close by. I think one of her family members left to France, but other one lives there. So this incident is clearly the Easter carnage would be the beginning of the creation of Tamil Nadu as an independent free state, because India attacking the churches in Sri Lanka, especially the St. Anthony's Church, which is in an area with a highly Indian Sri Lankan Chetty Tamil populated area, and also the Dematagoda, which is populated by Sri Lankan Muslims of Indian origin who have trade links to India, and also the Nigambo church attack, also Dehiwala, where mostly it is the populated by the Sri Lankan Muslims of Indian origins, clearly points towards the India's involvement in attacking the Catholic community in Sri Lanka, and as it has given the prior warning before the attack to Sri Lanka. So I think this situation, as Erik Solheim said today on the dailymirror.lk, Sri Lanka faces the risk of another terrorist organization emerging from the Sri Lankan Muslims of Indian origin, as supported by the Indian government once again. So before that, I think Sri Lanka must take this issue up, and it's because the South India's in order to hide the South Indian separatist movement, Indian Supreme Court pointed out that the killing of Rajiv Gandhi is a mere personal revenge by Prabhakaran. It's not that case. Actually, it's the Tamil nation spread throughout the world, even Canada, Europe, America, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, everywhere, Singapore, Malaysia. They are working together in order to hide those information. The Indian Supreme Court says that the Prabhakaran's killing of Rajiv Gandhi, Prime Minister of India, is just a personal revenge. It's not that. It's a medium to long-term evolution of freedom in Tamil Nadu as an independent country. Because Tamil people needs a different country, because their nation is spread throughout the world in different countries, Europe, South Africa, Malaysia, Singapore, Mauritius Island, Sri Lanka, Canada, and in America, South America. So they need a different country to preserve their unique culture, and this is why the Tamil Nadu state would become independent and sovereign state very soon.